Like a child sick in bed, an angel came and kissed me on the head. In a cold sweat, I know what it meant, but I don't know why. The voices in the amplify must be the poison arrow. I'm awake, but I can't concentrate. Gotta make my life more narrow. I'll just sit and read my book. I can't believe the solution for lover, so the walls are talking to me, and the shadows follow me down the street like a memory, woo, like a memory, woo, like a memory.
Century Egg is an artful young pop rock band based in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Featuring lyrics in Mandarin and English, sung by a young woman named Shane Song, Century Egg are an animated quartet in more ways than one. They've just released a new EP called River God, which is available on their Bandcamp page. You can hear a song from it in the background as I'm speaking to you right now. It's called Lost Angel. Lost Angel. That is from the new River God EP. And the band are set to play select shows across Canada, including stops at the E-Bar in Guelph on April 7th for Kazoo Fest. Shane, Robert, Tree, and Nick make up Century Egg, and all of them recently joined me for an in-depth conversation about what life is like in Halifax, Calgary, and China, Shane's upbringing in China and her background as a graphic artist and animator, oppression and liberation, how racialized musicians are underrepresented in Canada, playing cool music, and much more. And you're going to hear a whole song by Century Egg from this new River God EP. So please get comfortable and listen to me in conversation with Century Egg on Creative Control. Hi, Century Egg. How's it going over there?
Hello.
I'm Vish. It's nice to meet you this way. Where are you guys right now?
We're in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in Tree's room.
In my room.
Yes, hanging out.
In your room. That sounds nice. Now, can each of you individually introduce each other, or yourselves, sorry, to people listening so we can identify everyone?
Sure. This is Shane Song. I'm the singer of the band.
I'm Robert Drisdell. I play guitar.
Hi, I'm Nick Dorado. I play the bass.
And I'm Tree Lee. I play the drums.
Nice to speak with all of you. Thank you for being on this show. And I'm curious right away about your time in Halifax, how you all arrived in Halifax, whether you're from Halifax. Can you talk, each of you, a little bit about your relationship to the city and how you ended up there?
Sure. Well, let's see. This is Robert. I am from Halifax myself, and been playing music in town for a long time. Tree, you're also from?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Halifax. I've been here basically my whole life.
My name's Nick. I'm from Calgary. And I moved to Halifax to go to school.
Is it starting to feel like you're in like a meeting? Like you have to introduce... You're kind of introducing yourself to your own band.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to sound. We want to know who's talking. I suppose.
I know it's fun. I'm just like staring at this microphone.
Sorry,
I'm from China. I came to Canada how many years ago? 8-9 years ago, attending NASCAD, and I met Robert as a roommate, and later we started the band.
Cute.
Yeah,
that is cute.
Okay, that's interesting. So there's you got two Haligonians there, so people familiar with the city, and then I think obviously I think some people will be a little surprised that one of you is actually from Calgary.
Really? Why do you think that? What's so surprising about that, Vish?
I just feel like Calgary doesn't really produce that many musicians and then send them to Halifax. That's an odd trajectory.
I feel like I thought so myself, but I feel like when I left Calgary, I actually left behind like some of the brightest young musicians in the country.
Okay, if that's what you think. I mean...
Wait, what?
No, I'm just teasing you. I'm just making fun. I think Calgary's a lovely place and produces amazing musicians. Everyone knows that.
It's a pretty fucked up place. There's no question about that.
What makes it so messed up, as it were?
It just like the political history of Calgary, I guess, is pretty bizarre. The fact that it has Canada's economic center and like the center of like the world exploiting itself. It's quite an existential place, in fact.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, for what it's worth, that infrastructure is crumbling now.
Yeah.
and that some people are, well, I mean, some people are very devastated by this, but you sound like you're maybe not as sympathetic about that.
I just like, do you talk to Albertans about it? They're like eternally optimistic people. Like they believe in capitalism, man. Do you remember when it flooded like 2 years ago?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But you know of this band called Un Blonde, correct?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That was like one thing I was really surprised about. Like I know that there are lots of Calgarian musicians scattered around the rest of Canada. Where I feel like there were a lot of people that like were inspired by cool music that was happening there, and the campus radio station CJSW, but all live in other places and do their music there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hotbed for some really creative work musically. I mean, just off the top of my head, like Braids came from there, but went to Montreal.
I know, totally.
Chad Van Galen is staying there.
Truth.
He won't. Did you know any of those people?
I didn't know them personally when I was a kid because I grew up in the burbs, and they were like in the cool downtown situation. But I knew of them. I followed them as a real fanboy when I was in high school. Right.
Okay. I mean, my wife's from Alberta. She's from Edmonton, so I go there all the time.
I now understand why you feel so excited to shit talk Alberta. It's like it comes with the family so much.
I agree. I concur. I concur is what I meant to say there. Shane, you moved to Canada, what would you say, 8 years ago?
8-9 years ago, yeah.
And why NASCAD, of all places in the world that you could have gone to?
Okay, so when I was applying for grad school, I believe NASCAD was the only school that offered a master program in design. And my major when I was in China was animation, and that was considered as like in the design category, so I can technically only apply for a design master program. So if I want to apply any school in Canada, it will have to be NASCAD. I had the choice to go to the States, but it was way more expensive, so I didn't do that.
Okay, and so Canada, you might have ended up somewhere else in Canada, perhaps, but you managed to get to Halifax. Is that what happened?
No. It's just like NASCAD was the only school available.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and so your background's animation. What got you into animation?
Hard to say. I always liked anime. And just like animation in general.
Love for video games.
And I love video games. And also, it's like art education is very competitive in China. It's not like you have interest in art, then you can go to art school. You have to be trained for like over a certain amount of years and then take exams. And if you want to go to fine art, then the standard is even higher. So basically, I failed to pass the best fine art schools in China, but I passed the animation program in some of the best universities, so I picked one of them.
Oh, nice. So you're good at this.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Shane is very, very good at that, actually.
You you incorporate this skill set within the band Century Egg, right? Like you with videos, and do you do any of the artwork for the?
I do all the artwork. I do all the artwork for our band, and I think that's one of the feature of our band is it's very animated.
So that's fair. That's fair in the music as well. And which language are you singing in?
In Chinese, in Mandarin.
In Mandarin, okay. And but you speak English. Why did you choose to sing in Mandarin?
I know. I can't write lyrics in English. It's not my first language, so like I can use it to communicate. It's a tool for me, but it's not a creative tool for me. It's just a communicatable tool for me. So if I'm going to do anything poetic or arty, it would have to be Chinese.
Okay, that's interesting. And do you? But you listen to a lot of English. How long have you been speaking English?
So my generation, Chinese kids usually start to learn English since like elementary school or junior high. But it's very like English education for passing the exams. So yeah, I started to learn English when I was a kid. But really, I learned English through like music and movies and cartoons and like that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. That's fascinating. Tree, does your band have conversations about what Century Egg songs are about? And if so, can you talk a little bit about some themes that you've encountered in Shane's lyrics?
Well, actually, my background, my parents are from Vietnam, so I don't know any Mandarin, any Chinese at all.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to insinuate you might know.
Oh, no, yes.
No, I did ask. I know. I just was picking someone who hadn't spoken yet. I'm sorry. I did. I wasn't picking you because I thought you might actually comprehend the language. I meant, do you guys actually, as a band, have conversations about the lyrics?
We've talked about the lyrics from time to time, but I think it's more of like a personal side of Robert and Shane that really take control of the lyrics in the band.
Yeah, Shane
Right.
and I co-write the songs, and it's an interesting process when we're writing the songs writing the songs with Chinese lyrics, because it's kind of like I get lines and they're actually in the Mandarin, like in the characters, where each character is a single syllable, and I'm just constructing the melodies from just like the number of characters that are in there, and Shane and I work out like where the cadence is supposed to be in each line. Like I actually, even as we're writing the songs together, I don't have a very direct knowledge of what the lyrics mean explicitly. So it's a bit of a distance, but I think that's kind of what has made the songwriting kind of successful, because the music works without, like they would work as instrumentals, but then the lyrics and the meaning of them is kind of extra, kind of fortifies the whole thing. Yeah.
Is it weird for you, Robert, as a co-songwriter, to not know what the songs might be sort of about, or what the meaning is there?
No. Well, I get kind of a rough conceptual outline, and trying to write songs kind of based on like that kind of theme. For me, it helps having a lot of distance from the content to think about just like music on its own. Like I write some lyrics for the band myself too, and that works out a certain way. But it's kind of cool writing it in like the way I would write instrumental music.
There were probably about half of our songs are in English, and Robert wrote all of the lyrics of those songs. And I always translate all the Chinese lyrics into English before we start to work on the music, and sometimes explain my motivation of why I'm writing the song, or he would just know because we have been living together forever. So like, even though he probably wouldn't fully understand why the lyrics work in a literature kind of way, that's something I'm in charge of, like to control if the music is emotionally expressing the meaning of the lyrics or not.
So Shane, if you're transcribing, or rather translating the lyrics, are you doing that for the express purpose of informing your bandmates about where you've taken a song?
I'm hoping that one day she just like pulls the wool over our eyes and like writes a song about, like writes something with really obscene lyrics and tells us that we're writing something that's got like really good like social values, and we'll be none the wiser. But we've never really had that conversation ever.
What? I didn't understand the question.
Well, specifically, Shane, I wondered if you were doing your bandmates a kind of a courtesy in translating the meaning. Are you doing it for them? Are you doing it for us? Why are you translating the songs ahead of time, as you were saying you do?
Oh, I only translated the lyrics for Robert for like the purpose of writing music. So to be honest, for the longest time, I didn't want to translate my lyrics into English or tell anyone what they're about because I'm not confident enough. Not because I'm not confident about the lyrics, but because I know that things get lost in translation, and I'm not a good enough translator to do a job that give people like the full experience of what it's supposed to be. But recently, I have been translating lyrics to other band members, and they seem to be okay with them.
Nobody's quit yet, anyways. It's about what?
Shane, I want to get back to you in terms of meaning in a moment, but I do think it might be interesting to hear from some of your bandmates about your songs. Maybe let's go with Nick. I don't think we've heard much. Nick, are you being kind of quiet right now?
Maybe, I don't know. Am I? Feel like we.
I'm not sure.
Feel like we had a lively back and forth already.
Yeah, that's true. We did about Calgary. Yeah, okay. It's I forgot about that already.
Oh
but
my
do you want
God. Oh my God, Ace.
I'm sorry. Can you talk a little bit about your interpretation of some of Shane's lyrics and some of these Century Egg songs? Do you have a sense of? Do any of them? Do you have any highlights, like lyrical highlights for you?
Well, all of those sound pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I love all of the songs. I remember when I first started playing in this band, I was really curious and asked Shane all the time to translate the lyrics. But then, like, when I first talked to Shane about it, Shane said that she wasn't that interested in translating the lyrics, and I think that I was really deeply satisfied by that. And any time I get the opportunity when we're just hanging out and it sort of comes out what the songs are about, like, it's really clear to me that the songs are very honest, that all of the music is actually very honest, and it's really fun to be a part of this band for that reason. And like knowing Shane and Robert really well, knowing about their like interpersonal problems and the shit that we like all get together about, and like why we enjoy each other's company. And then I find out about the content of the songs, and it's usually very similar to that, like not trying to act cool, finding ways to speak to our parents about the intergenerational and cultural gaps between us, songs about libraries, like innocent songs, or also too, like something that I love so much is that a lot of the songs are like reimaginations of Chinese folkloric characters. So again, like that, it's just so fun to play because it's not like an emo song, but it's something that has a character and a life of its own, and it's like they're really jubilant and buoyant for that reason. Like the songs really have a life of their own. I feel like they're not like they are deeply personal, but I don't think that they're like about any, I don't know how to say that. Like,
well, I mean, listening to it, not knowing the language, but listening to the songs that you have released online so far, it's clear to me that they have meaning, like emotional. There's an emotional meaning there. It actually makes me wonder if in your experience as a band, does the language barrier, if you will, does it even matter? Does it even matter when you're in front of an audience and no one there speaks Mandarin? Is it coming across? Is it getting across to people being in your experience thus far?
I think it is kind of the similar way that like people still go to the opera. They'll see a Puccini opera or something like that. They get surtitles, but I'm making lofty comparisons, of course.
Robert brought Puccini into this interview already.
Puccini will have none of that. No, but like there's it was like I'm saying about our songwriting style. Like we want the music to be enjoyable, whether you understand the meaning of the lyrics or not. However, if you do understand the meaning of the lyrics, and we've had audience members that have really connected on. Who are Mandarin speaking, who haven't connected and enjoyed the lyrics, and that makes it all the better. It's an interesting that we've had this distance with ourselves, but also with the audience. It seems like we've been having good receptions with audiences, despite the fact that they don't understand the lyrics, which means that something's working there. But we want to we hope to meet people who do understand our lyrics and will find it to be something special for them specifically too, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I remember at the very beginning of the band. I think it's before we even found Nick and Tree. I personally had this fear that if I sing in Chinese on the stage, people might like get mad at me because they encounter something they don't understand, because that happens.
Right.
But like, my thought was, if they were angry about something they don't understand, that almost makes me more want to like present that thing to them.
Totally.
And if not, then great. Like, then there's no language barrier. So either way is good for me. So we really didn't really think about if language is going to be a barrier or not, and we just continue, and it's working.
Yeah, I also think that that's like one of the really fun parts about choosing to play in a band like Century Egg, is that you get to like really not worry about things like the language barrier, because it's just like our relationship to the music and the project is so much deeper that those kinds of barriers are truly so superficial compared to like everything else that we're dealing with in terms of getting the music across, that I like can't even think of the last time I thought about that.
Yeah, I don't know how the audience feel about listening to a language they don't understand, but just within the band, like we, like Nick
All
and I,
listen to
Tree and I,
music, yeah.
talk about stuff like relationship with our parents, or like being an immigrant, and like dating as a minority, like that kind of life experience so much. That we just like I think that's why Nick stopped asking me about the meaning of the lyrics, because it's pretty much stuff we talk about all the time. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, that means you're kind of. It sounds like you're a very close knit band that way. You talk to each other about whatever's on your minds.
Yes. While eating food.
It's very true. Shane always kind of had the goal to have a family band, that like the band would be like a family and Shane would be the supreme ruling mother. And I think that we've come pretty close.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about that. How did this band actually come together? We kind of got we know there's a Calgary, China, Halifax connection, but let's talk about the history of Century Egg. Where did this band come from? How did it come together?
Well, it started really with Shane and I writing tunes together. Kind of. Yeah.
Can I talk about this? Do you mind if I like tell them about like a little bit more like private side of things?
I'd rather I had a.
It's not going to be. No, it's not going to be that.
Full disclosure: Shane and I are life partners.
Yeah, I gathered that. Yeah, I figured that out.
So the very, very, very beginning is when we just started to date. Because I always wanted to be in a band since I was a teenage girl, and it never seemed to be possible back then. And when I just started to date Robert, and he's a musician, I was like, oh, I should take advantage of that. And and then I said, can you write some songs for me to sing? And he wrote some really, really nice stuff. But at that time there was no there's no like emotional motivation. He wrote something that sounded like Cocktail Twins. It was really, really nice, but it never turned into something. We never finished those songs. I think just because the motivation is not genuine enough. And then later we spent time together, and then we experienced things, and then things happened, and then we started to write songs to express our feelings towards each other, or to our parents, our family, life situation, and all that. And that turned into Century Egg.
Yeah, we were in Toronto for a good while, and then we were separate for a bit, where Shane was back in Halifax and I was living in Toronto. And then when I rejoined here, it was like, okay, we're back in the same city. Let's get a band together and do it. And I've been talking to Nick for a while about doing something, and we jammed some improv type stuff, and then I played him some of the demos that Shane and I had done, and he was like, well, why don't we just play this stuff? And Tree was living with Nick at the time too, so we're cohabitant type bands.
As soon as I heard the songs,
Yeah, I know. Robert makes it seem so chill. Like Tree and I were friggin' losing our minds.
I actually lost it and told Nick after he had jammed with Shane and Robert. I told Nick, I was like, anything I have to do to get in this band, I'm going to do.
We didn't even. Oh, so
What
good.
song? What song?
We didn't jam. I showed Tree the recording of the demo
God.
recording of Mountain God,
Oh.
and we like literally lost our minds for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's so funny that when Robert's like, yeah, Nick and I were kind of like talking, maybe jamming. Like I knew Robert from before because Robert played in some of my favorite bands that were ever in Halifax, and I was a big Robert Drisdale fanboy. It's true.
What were some of those bands?
The main band was called Chanteuse, which was like a project that Robert was like the mastermind of, and it was like sort of I'm gonna just go for it, like a little bit of like a post-rock, symphonic rock kind of thing.
Instrumental
rock.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was also playing an instrumental rock band, and our songs were like just so unsophisticated compared to Chanteuse. And every time I saw Chanteuse play, I just felt so ashamed.
That wasn't my intention.
But it was really cool. And then Robert moved to Toronto to do his master's in composition, and then I thought I would never see or hear from Robert again. But then I found out he was moving back to Halifax, and the day I found out he was moving back, I remember the minute I found out he was moving back, sending him a message being like, tell me the day you're back. We're going to start practicing all the time. Because Robert is a clarinet master.
Or,
A master of the clarinet, and I am a saxophone freak, a freak of the saxophone. So we started working on that for a few months, and then one day Robert came over with a bottle of
Hopes and Dreams.
No, what was it called?
Sherry.
I guess it was a bottle of sherry, and he played me all of the demos on his computer as per my request, and then once we got to the end, he was like, hey, here are some of the songs I'm working on with my partner Shane. And then when I listened to them, like Tree, I totally went crazy. Like, I remember going crazy.
Bananas.
And remember thinking, like, at that moment, like, Robert, we're putting down everything we're working on, and we're going to make this come to life because it's going to work for us for sure. That was like a year ago.
Now, can you articulate just what it was that made you feel so crazy?
Yeah, for sure. If you want me to, I'm gonna sound like such a cheesy fanboy, though.
Go for it.
It's okay. I don't think Robert can hear you. It's fine. There's nothing to be embarrassed about.
You can't see the look on his face right now. Oh my god, it's like his birthday. He's like a 12-year-old on his birthday. Well, like, for one, I also, like, you know, like in my journey of learning about music and the music of the world and discovering like a broader spectrum of composition and the history of music, which is something that I've known Robert and I have like always had in common. I'm not really that interested in hearing music in English as much anymore. So for one, that was thrilling for me to hear music in another language and possibly have the opportunity to play in a band in Canada that wasn't an English speaking band. But on top of that, like I'm like a studying musician as well, and somebody who is really into composition and could hear the sophistication of the ideas, the complexity of the ideas, but could also tell that I understood how the music worked. So I could tell that I could understand. It was like just the perfect mentoring opportunity, which is like the kind of thing I'm always chasing down.
Well, that sounds lovely. That's cool. I mean, it sounds like the dream band for Tree and Nick anyway.
It is! I look at us right now.
I really wanted to play in like a cool poppy rock and roll band, and this was my opportunity, and it was exactly what I was looking for at the time.
I mean, Halifax has a rich history of such bands, but I can't think of too many that sound like you and have this makeup. Do you know of anyone doing anything similar to Century Egg right now in terms of the composition of the band, the language of the band, and then the sound of the band? I can't think of too many things, but maybe you can.
I will confidently say we are the most unique band in the world.
Well, I don't know. I will
Okay,
say
no, that's wrong. I take that back.
I'll interject here. Okay. Yeah. No. In Halifax, and in Canada, I mean, we've looked. I'm not sure what other bands are in Canada. Please get us if you're a Chinese-speaking band. We want to know who you are, or really anything. I don't know, cool bands. I don't know enough about what's going on, but we draw a lot of inspiration from Taiwanese music in particular, like the Wamfu and
not just Taiwanese music, like a lot of Asian countries. Music.
There are a lot of really exciting acts coming out in like Taiwan and Japan, and it's harder to find out about stuff that's going on in mainland China, but there's
But there's some good stuff in the 80s and 90s, and we're influenced by those as well.
Yeah, Fei Wong. There's certainly a precedent in like pop music for what we're doing here. It's just no one's really done that specific thing here.
Do you have a sense of maybe why? I mean, again, this is a totally unique endeavor. I think anyone who hears it, anyone who sees it will discover that. But do you have a sense of why no one has thought to do this before?
I think it's because there's been a lack of representation in that. I mean, like indie rock in particular was like just white dudes, and like if young people of color have nothing to, if they don't see themselves in the band that's there, it doesn't seem like it's supposed to be the thing for them.
Yeah, definitely. Like on what if Robert is going to open up that can of worms, like it straight up is a hostile music community, and it's like not inclusive or welcoming to people who have different experiences of the world, and it sort of is just a like part of the situation that there are so many people that are like interested in indie rock music, pop music, who are here in Canada that like want to participate in that thing and truly can't. And I only can really say that feeling confidently to you right now because after we've started this band in the last year of doing so much music, everywhere we go, every time we play shows, I have people personally come up to me and tell me exactly that.
Yeah. No, I when you say a hostile environment or community, you're referring to the Canadian indie rock community. You're not talking about Halifax, right?
Oh, that's a whole other can of worms. I feel like if we even tried to open up the Halifax can of worms, it would be quite a wormy mess.
There's similar scenes in different cities. Like, remember you talked to Lido Pimienta a few months back, not long after her Toronto Now cover story. And she was talking about the same thing in Toronto. I think you'd probably find that in similar places, like or in other cities in Canada, where like people are. I don't know if it's either like on purpose or just because the bands are, or like music scenes do have some racial segregation going on. But like a rock scene is like. Or like a rock, an indie rock show is going to be like several bands that are predominantly white or predominantly white dudes, and then other genres have other demographics and things like that. In Halifax, I find lately there seems to be a bit more, people mixing up the bill.
I mean, because of a truly extremely concerted effort by people.
It's an activist effort for sure to actually break down barriers in Halifax, and it's really exciting to see. But it's not without a lot of work.
Totally everywhere in the country. And I don't think it definitely doesn't happen anywhere spontaneously. That and that's like one of the things I feel like we've all really learned from having Lido around is that you actually have to find your thing, trust your own thing, and go in there and fully realize it so that it can make a space to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Lido has been on this show a couple of times, and she and I are friends, and we have these conversations about, similar line of questioning for Lido in terms of her presentation, which is primarily, in Spanish, and primarily in front of non-Spanish speaking white audiences. That's where she's playing, and that's where she's building sort of incrementally, but it's expanding. She has a big audience now on some level, and I feel like because of people like her being outspoken about this situation, and because of comments like the ones you've made, I am, and you know, I myself am also a visible minority and have been immersed in this scene or whatever you want to call it for a long time. I can't help but feel like there is incremental progress being made. Like the fact that your band is getting people are paying attention. The fact that you're coming to Guelph, you know, and playing, that to me is a sign that people who are hoping to make a difference are in fact having some success, you know, trying to book bands like yours and people like Lido. Do you feel that?
Yeah,
do you feel like there's progress being made?
Only one thing that I would really have to say as an addendum to all of that is that it's happening because of so much invisible emotional labor. Much labor is going into educating people about the scenes. It's like it causes so much harm and trauma behind the scenes that people don't see. It's work. And definitely none of it happened anywhere without confrontation, and continued confrontation and pressure and quite literally activism. But I'm sure that it's not spontaneous. I guess that's just the only thing that looking from afar, it seems like it's because it's a shift in the general cultural identity. But I think that might be a mistake. I think that it's truly because there are people pushing to see specific types of scenes and industries promote a different value system.
Right, and I mean, there's still a power imbalance in terms of the people who could make decisions to actually, enact such progress and foster such change. I mean, the people in charge often are still of a power. Like, they have power and they represent power, I'm still hopeful that there's change happening, I guess is my point.
Yeah,
but you're right. It's the result of a lot of hard work. I have a sense of how, first of all, thanks for bringing that to light. But Shane, I want to ask you a little bit about your upbringing in China, because I think we have a strained perspective on China. I don't know enough about China. We hear about China a lot. You say you've always wanted to play in a band, but it wasn't until you came to Canada where you could actually do it, and that might have something to do with the age you were. It could be anything. But what was your experience like growing up in China? Did you feel free to express yourself as an artist?
Are you asking the difference of being in China and being in Canada?
I suppose I am, but I suppose I am. I gather that you've had a liberating experience here because of the people you've met and the fact that you finally, after a long time of yearning to be in a band, you're in a band, so you must have a certain amount of joy from that. But so I don't know if I meant specifically Canada, China in comparison. I just meant your general. Although I guess being in Canada, you now have a sense of what your life was like in China. So maybe, yes, on some level, I suppose I was asking that question.
Yeah. So when I was a teenager, when I was in China, it seemed impossible to play in a band or to do music because of multiple reasons. First, being a girl is generally dangerous to be involved with those scenes, and it's not a stereotype. It's truly dangerous, more or less. And also playing music is expensive. I just couldn't afford. It's also expensive here, but the DIY scene and just the spirit of trying to do whatever way you can is a very common atmosphere here, while it doesn't exist in China. And then mainly, if you wanted to do anything rock and roll related in China, you have to be prepared to explain yourself all the time, because people will question you and people will consider you as a bad girl, bad person or whatever. And I was just wasn't ready to fight that battle. And here in Canada, since everybody's playing music, it's just a very natural thing for me to feel like, I can do that as well. But I find I'm still constantly having to explain myself to my family, to my friends in China, or to Chinese who are in Canada, which is fine.
They just can't conceive of how you are able to do such a thing as be the front person in a band called Century Egg?
They just don't understand why people would like do rock and roll in general.
Do you guys understand why you want to do rock and roll?
It's been a journey of understanding. You just do it, worry about the consequences later, I guess.
No, it's more like you cannot not do it, right? If you are that type of people, you would just do it.
We are bad people. Like when you said that, like people think you're a bad girl. I was like, wait a second, Shane.
Yes.
Well, when you hear Nick and Shane, when you hear Nick and Robert talking about the Canadian independent music infrastructure and how it hasn't been the most welcoming environment for minorities, do you relate to that on some level based on your upbringing in China, like that notion of there being some form of marginalization and oppression? Like, does that resonate with you?
Yes. I have to say I'm fairly ignorant to the local and the Canadian music scene. And I'm not even, like, I don't even go to shows that often. But still, I feel that, especially, say, 5 years ago. Like, 5 years ago,
Totally.
when I occasionally went to shows, it's all white dudes playing, I'd say, boring music, and the air is not welcoming, and if it just like it even felt unsafe somehow if you go to a bar or whatever by yourself, but it like nowadays it's way better. You will be able to see female rockers pretty much at every show. And if there's not enough female rockers in a festival or in a show, people will raise the question why there are enough female rockers, because we know there are a lot of them playing music. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The year and a half I lived in Toronto, I definitely experienced way more diversity in the music scene there. But at the same time, I also encountered way more direct racism. Like I remember being at Lido's show, and then there are dudes like standing beside me saying like extremely racist, offensive things that I had to move to another spot. But I think that's good. I think the direct confrontation indicate things are changing.
You think that the fact that they actually... No, wait, sorry. Explain that. You thought it was good that they expressed themselves and you knew what was on their minds, or that...
Yeah. Not good that they're they can express their mind, whatever. I'm just feeling happy to see like the wound exposed, I guess. Like like the direct confrontation will be more and more frequent, I think, in the next following years.
Right.
And one of the things that I've actually loved so much about like getting to play with Shane in this band too, because of Shane's upbringing in China, is the like understanding of our relationship to African American peoples and African American classical music, and like how that is the root of rock and roll. And how that understanding is actually really important in terms of how all of us, even as Century Egg, participate in this thing and like learn about rock and roll and what it means to us. And I feel like, I mean, that's been really interesting to me because, like, just as a fundamentally humanitarian crisis, it, like, even though Shane grew up in a different part of the world, we've, like, had a lot of understanding over talking about different stuff like that, which I feel like was pretty validating in terms of, like, helping me understand that there are truths to some of these things and that, like, there's nothing dangerous about wanting to understand the histories of why we all practice all the different kinds of music that we do and participate in, like, the multi-complicated world we do.
Sorry, can you expand upon how Shane's upbringing in China illuminated our relationship, or rather rock and roll's relationship to African American culture? I didn't quite follow that.
Well, I just felt like it was really important for me to like talk about those things with Shane because those are parts of our lived experience here in North America, where, like, for example, when you grow up in another place, you're not, like, necessarily educated about the entire for example, like you just said, you don't know much about the history of China and the Chinese people.
Well, I mean, I know what I've read, and I know what I've heard, and I just know things through various mediated sources. It's not often I get to speak to someone who was raised there and can kind of give a first-hand account. That's all.
Yeah, totally. And so, like, one of the parts of being raised in North America for me, like, again, as a racialized person, is being able to, like, share parts of the histories that we have when we grow up here, which is that we have a shared history with all African diaspora people in North America and all indigenous people in North America. And so that, for me, for, like, talking to somebody who came from a different part of the world is, like, a really important part of sharing the history of what it means to be in Canada.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, having a pop band and with this kind of like you know, the rock and roll is the music that we grew up in. It's a exemplary of you know like Shane comes from a totally different side of the world. We meet up and there's songs that we know the same. And, there's globalization happening, and like black music was part of carrying this kind of like Western influence in the other countries. It's really interesting learning about how Shane interfaced with like pop music, like Western music, kind of like growing up and what kind of stuff she gravitated to. It made us think about how kind of like genuine connections of the content and the music. How you meet someone who likes the same kind of music that you do. If that person has an extremely different kind of upbringing, bringing a totally different worldview, but still likes the same things, then there's like a really profound connection because you feel like it's at odds to something.
Right, and it does sound like you're like I'm somewhat astonished. I mean, I spoke with Lido about your band recently when Lido was in Guelph, Lido Pimenta, who we were referencing earlier, and I've heard about your band quite a bit. But until having this discussion, I kind of didn't realize how strong the kind of socio-cultural, political current running through your band. I just didn't know that this was all there.
We don't talk about it a whole lot, like at shows or anything like that. Lido will have like parts of her show where she'll talk to the audience. We have hardly any talking. We really do our communicating through the songwriting, but it's all informed by that kind of stuff. There's like a large amount of there's a lot of stuff that informs what we do, and not there's a lot any musician can point to a whole complex web of influences that influences what they do, but these are kind of pertinent themes right now, and it just happens to intersect with our music making.
And just like the most basic and obvious themes about the way that we live our lives in Canada. Like, again, it doesn't even seem exemplary, or it's just like so normal, so totally normal.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the other side of it is, you've expressed the one of you, I think it might have been Tree earlier, was like, I wanted to play in a pop rock band, which isn't often a haven for political discussion. Often, I'm stereotyping, obviously, and I'm generalizing. Sometimes it really, really is. You guys are a punk band, it's fair to say, right?
I would say so, yeah.
A punk band?
Punk or funk? Punk?
No, I didn't say funk. Oh. I said punk.
Punk. Okay.
I was like, are we talking about the same kind of music here?
I guess.
Definitely our live show is...
Our live show is very punk. Yeah, we're really... we're extreme... One thing that people who see us for the first time might be surprised by is the sheer volume. And, yeah.
Right. Well, I meant sort of philosophically, ideologically, if not sonically, you know, whatever that means. But
I kind of always think a little bit more of like Tropicalia.
Right? Yeah, sure.
Because that, I mean, like I always just think about Caetano and Gilberto Gil talking about how they like wanted to speak to the world and they didn't want to speak to Brazil, and then they heard about the Beatles and they were like, well, this is what we're going to do from now on.
Right. Right. So, but you're not cottoning onto a form. This is a natural expression that I don't know that necessarily the masses are going to catch on, but you're hoping to get in people's faces a little bit with these ideas, I assume.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's just impossible not to. I would love to not have to.
I have to say, I feel like I have to clarify that our songs are not that, like the songs themselves and lyrics are not that political, and we're not trying to be political. But because of our cultural background, the value and a lot of experience we share as immigrants and minority people are just there as like quality data in our songs.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important distinction, because sometimes you can just be functioning as a band and then people will ascribe politics onto you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for saying that. That rocks.
Well, it's true. You're just doing your thing, and people assume because of maybe the makeup of your band or something. I mean, again, I'm saying this. We've just had a very, I think, fruitful conversation about these issues, and totally. I think it's been really. What I was trying to say is it's been illuminating for me because I just didn't know.
But I think you actually just lit up something really, really interesting, which is like part of why it feels so hostile is like your basic experience, like just basic, not political experience. Like your life is political if you are a visible minority in North America. And it's not political, it's just basic, super basic part of your life. But then when you go to interface with a community who like sees their experience as apolitical and then wants to prescribe politics onto you, which is absolutely ridiculous, like that's very hostile.
Right.
And very othering and confusing, because then it's like hard to just be yourself, which is also part of why Century is such an awesome haven for us, because we say a lot of wild stuff together.
Well, and I just wanted to point that out because, and I'm sorry if I interrupted you, Shane, but I think that is an important point that you raised.
Yeah. I remember I said the reason, one of the main reason for this band is just because I couldn't be in a band when I was a teenage girl. So like, the music carrying a lot of like teenage girl dreams. So
totally.
It's not political in a way, but it's also very political, like gender politics wise.
Yeah.
Maybe your teenage girl dream was political in its own way.
Yeah, my dad always wanted to push me to be a politician.
Vish is totally reading our minds right now. What are you doing?
Well, I do appreciate this time with you guys, and it was, as I say, I enjoyed this very much. What's coming up for Century Egg? What's going on? I know I mentioned that you're coming to Guelph.
We are coming to Guelph. We've been we're really excited to play at Kazoo Fest. We're going to be playing on April 7th. We've kind of put a little tour together around that. So we're going to be playing in let's see, we're leaving on the 1st of April. We're playing in Sackville. Julie Doran's playing that show. Actually, I'm really excited. We're playing in Ottawa for the Debaser Spring thing. Playing in Hamilton at Haven. I should put these dates. So yeah, the Ottawa is on April 3rd. Hamilton's on April 4th at Haven. We're playing at the Burdock in Toronto with Lido Pimienta on the 4th. No, sorry, the 5th. We're playing at East Village Arts Collective in London on the 6th. Then we're playing in the 7th in Guelph, and then playing at Dr. One's Club in Montreal on Saturday the 8th. And then we long drive back to Halifax, and then we'll sleep.
And then very soon after the tour, we were going to release our first music video with my animation. So you will see the animation I talked about.
Oh yeah,
before.
we forgot. Also, we've got an EP coming out next.
Oh yeah,
week.
we're touring with our second EP, River God, which is the sequel to the first EP, Mountain God. And then the music video, which is another new song that is not. It's another new song not included in the second EP. And after that, we are also planning to put out our first album, but that's still sort of a plan.
Lots going on.
Well, it's good to have plans. What's with all the gods? Why all these god EPs?
I don't know. There's just like a lot of gods in my mind all the time.
Whoa.
They're not like actual gods. They're like fictional gods that I imagine based on Chinese folk tales and Chinese religions and
There's a lot of subversion that goes on. Though, talk about like this, what we do know of the lyrics, like in Mountain God, it's like that God's like kind of like really like lazy and hungry. It's really just more like. Am I misinterpreting?
No, it's okay. If you're interested in the meaning of the Chinese lyrics, Mountain God is about, because we Chinese people believe that each mountain has its own god, and like the mountain, the god has their own personalities. So I described myself as a god that is kind of irresponsible and not going to work, which is like going to check the mountain or whatever, not going to work on time every day, but just hanging with the mountain animals and eating food and being friends with evil animals, so like wolves and tigers, but also like taking care of weak animals like rabbits and stuff. Just live in a completely natural kind of way. So that's it's basically that. But the new song, River God, I think it's a little bit more profound. It's about the cycle of water turning to rain and falling into a river, and then going to the ocean, and then become cloud and turning to rain again. It's about a goddess, a river goddess journey, leaving her hometown and coming back every year, never be able to stay in one place, but being everywhere all the time. That's
okay. I think the river god made sense. The mountain god sounded complicated.
Yeah.
Just a little. The mountain god just seemed all over the place. The river god, I think, had a plan, but the mountain god, there's just a lot going on. But I appreciate that. They're all different, every god. That's interesting. Now, I think it was Robert mentioned being very excited about coming to Kazoo Fest in Guelph, and I'm calling you from Guelph. I should ask, what do you know of Kazoo? Why are you so stoked to come here?
I've been to Guelph a couple times before. And it always seems like that it's a real like small towns that have kind of like a lot of artists, and whenever there's like a festival or something, like I was there for the Hillside Inside one year, and it seems like like people are really like everyone's really stoked when like a festival takes over a town. I don't know if Kazoo is one of the kinds that this is like a takeover type. Is it a very big scale thing? I haven't been there for Kazoo before. There's a lot of bands.
Kazoo, I think it is in its own way a big scale thing. It actually immerses itself completely in the downtown and actually transforms spaces into new and meaningful spaces. Like what we would call alternative venues or whatever. Like they are very imaginative with their programming and how they immerse different businesses in the experience, and so we all go to different rooms and places we've never been, and we check them out, even as residents, as people who live here. Kazoo has opened my eyes to places I just didn't even know about. So
Cool.
they're very good at that.
Awesome. Yeah. We're very stoked to be around. We'll be we're playing with the band Laps, and they're from New Brunswick, all living in Montreal now. But we played a show with them a couple months ago, and we'll be reunited with them. And I don't know. It's always cool going to a town when there's a festival going on. It's pretty exciting. Like we did Sappy Fest last summer, and that was a really awesome weekend. So, yeah.
The lovely, lovely town of Sackville, New Brunswick. It doesn't get nicer than that place.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. So River God will be out, and people can go to centuryegg.bandcamp.com, I presume, to hear that thing.
Yep, for sure. We'll put it up the second it's done. So it'll be next week, probably Tuesday. But go to facebook.com/egg of the century, and we'll kind of prep y'all for when it's coming.
Okay. And my understanding is that we actually are going to premiere a song. Is that right? Are we going to go to a song right now from River God?
Yeah, sure.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
That would be great. I'm excited. What are we going to hear?
Let's hear the title track, River God.
Yeah, River
that?
God.
Okay, sir. Well, I guess you explained the River God. Maybe there's nothing more to say. We should just hear it, right?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Shane, Robert, and Tree, and Nick. Thank you so much for being on this show, and best of luck with everything. This is River God by Century Egg. Thank you, Century Egg. It was really a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank
Fish.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
A short but sweet song by Halifax's Century Egg. That was the title track from their new EP, River God, which you can learn more about and listen to at centuryegg.bandcamp.com. I learned a lot of things just talking to Century Egg. I laughed a little. I thought a lot about stuff. I enjoyed that conversation. Thank you very much, Century Egg. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person. This is the 310th episode of the Creative Control Podcast, which you can find pretty much anywhere now. iTunes, Audio Boom, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, whatever your podcast platform is, it should be there now. I don't think it always was, and that's on me. It only took me 4 years to figure this out, but now I think it's everywhere. You can also learn more about the show at vishkhanna.com. You can also make a flexible monthly donation to keep the podcast going at patreon.com/creative control. And I have envelopes. I was missing envelopes. Now I have envelopes. So if you've ordered a t-shirt in the last few months, I apologize. I will send out your t-shirts to you. I'm sorry. And if you want a t-shirt, send me a message. I still have some in select sizes, so I will send you a t-shirt if you want. But it would be nice if you, donated to the Patreon page. That would be fun. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Vish Creative and at Vishkana, and listen to a version of this show every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time at CFRU.ca or CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph if you're in the area. Oh, I should mention our sponsors, the finest pizzeria in Guelph, Pizza Trocadero. Call them for pickup or delivery at 519-829-2444. TrocaderoGuelph.ca for more info as well. The Bookshelf, an independently owned bookstore, bar, music venue, movie theater, and restaurant. That's where Century Egg are playing when they come to Guelph. They're playing at the E-Bar, which is part of the Bookshelf. 41 Quebec Street in Guelph. Bookshelf.ca for more information about them. And for the finest coffee anywhere, try Planet Bean freshly roasted, fair trade, certified organic coffee. They're amazing. PlanetBeanCoffee.com. That's it for me. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye for now.